Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a beautiful and brand new day and to our monthly podcast, a favorite at Temple Within Radio, Dear Miss T with Terry Ruel. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, everybody. Happy spring. I hope everyone had a wonderful Easter or spring equinox or whatever you celebrate. It's busting out spring all over here in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Everything's turning green and it's raining, so the flowers and everything trying to come out is happy to have the rain. So we're talking about gaslighting today, which is a very heavy subject. And it's a very important subject right now, I think, because it's gotten so out of control in our society that a lot of people never even used to know this term, and it's become a more common knowledge now, which, unfortunately is because there's so much of it happening. So I thought I would just start with the basic definition of gaslighting is a form of psychological abuse where a person or group makes someone question their sanity or their perception of reality or their memories. And people experiencing gaslighting can often feel confused, anxious, or unable to trust themselves or the information or their environment. So the biggest sign of gaslighting is blatant lies. So a person will set a precedent off of blatant lies. And this becomes the norm over time. And the person, or the reason for this, is that they want to keep people off-center and continually question themselves or the reality, because that's how they get control. And gaslighting is one of the worst forms of abuse. It's so insidious and so destructive, and it happens over time, usually very gradually. So it becomes like what we talked about with the cult stuff, a form of brainwashing that makes it very difficult for people to heal from. And right now, you probably might have seen in the news, one of the biggest examples of blatant lying with gaslighting has been the lawyer for ex-President Trump, who's getting sued by Dominion voting machines for the big lie of saying these voting machines were not working right. And she even came out and her lawyers and said, "You weren't supposed to really believe me." Now that is probably one of the most blatant examples of gaslighting that I've ever seen, even in our politics, even in anything. And we all know, politics can be stretching the truth and, maybe what people would call white lies. But the blatant lying that's come out about this election being stolen and the Dominion voting machines being fixed, and this lawyer getting sued and saying right out loud, "You weren't supposed to really believe me."
Wow.
And that's actually one of the lawyers or her lawyer's defense. So then they try to gaslight that by saying we weren't stating these as facts. We were just stating them as opinion. When, it's verifiable. It's on video. These things were stated as facts over and over and over. That's why they're getting sued. So the first sign of gaslighting are blatant lies. And they try to keep like say over and over, to set a precedent, to keep everyone off center and keep people questioning until people start questioning their own judgment. And their the second sign is denying that they ever said anything, and they keep saying until the person starts questioning, like I say, themselves or their own ears or their own eyes. So even if you have proof, the more that this is done, the more the person or that culture or society or group can start accepting the reality of the person who is lying or the group that is lying.
So that the lie becomes the group's reality.
Yes. And they will use whatever is near and dear to you to embed this. Like if it's an individual, it might be, oh, even your kids think you're crazy.
Oh, yeah. Been there.
Oh, yeah.
Very painful.
Yep. Very painful. And or your identity, your career, even your coworkers think you're a lousy teacher, or for a group it might be even the other Trump people are going to think you're a traitor, or you're not being patriotic, to question any of this.
Mm-hmm.
So they wear people down over time, like, the story of the frog in the pan, where the heat just keeps getting turned up slowly, more and more and more, and snide remarks and dismissing the person. But the biggest thing is the actions and the words don't match. One of the things we always talk about in counseling, and especially for substance abuse, is the evidence is in the behavior, not the words. Okay? So if you're questioning, it helps to look at behaviors and stop listening to words. If a person is acting inappropriately, they're acting inappropriately. You don't have to listen to what they're saying. You have to trust that you see a behavior that is inappropriate in some way or unhealthy in some way, and trust that. Catching it before they've convinced someone not to listen to their own, not believe their own eyes and ears is, the best way to prevent it. But gaslighters, it's like I say, they will use any kind of manipulation. So the goal too is to isolate people or groups so that they're not going to talk to or see anybody they don't want them to, that doesn't agree with their point of view and doesn't believe their propaganda or their gaslighting. So that's where QAnon came in the picture, and now there's very extensive, not only legitimate investigative reporting, but FBI investigations and everything else that are going to keep showing that QAnon is just another form of gaslighting and full of blatant lies, and probably mostly has been started and run by this con man team of a father and son. And they owned porn sites and a lot of other stuff that they sent out threads to and pulled in all these other people, anybody who was against anything, and used more blatant lying. So now we have people who are afraid to get the vaccinations, or think that there's some poison in it, or think that, it's some kind of a conspiracy. And it's moved out to where now, it's affecting actual people's life and death, because now we have, more variants getting stronger. If we don't get the vaccination up to 70 or 80%, we're never going to be able to get this under control without a lot more people dying and being very sick. So this is not anything to, minimize or justify or rationalize. And you guys know me. I try to stay pretty balanced and centered and keep my views to myself about politics. But this is not politics. This is actual abusing a society to the point where people are, getting sick, where it's very unhealthy. And it's unhealthy for our society. It's caused a division that is unbelievable. I've never seen it this divided in my lifetime. And we have to heal this. And the only way you can heal anything is to get to the truth and to be able to face the truth and state the truth. And like I say, not deny or rationalize or minimize or justify, but just state the truth. And the truth is that this election was not stolen. It was a fair election. The truth is vaccines work. They've been proven scientifically over time. And this has been deeply, studied. And this is about people's health. And we have got to, try to speak the truth and try to help each other understand that there are legitimate sources of information and that most of that's not going to be found on the internet. And that, it's going to, we can trust the people who have studied these things their whole lives to tell us the truth. And that means your doctors and your epidemiologists and the experts. And that's our best source of information. So, I feel like it's too vital at this point. We have to find ways to try to speak the truth in whatever, venue we are in so that we can stop this confusion and help people know that it's okay to question. There's no dumb questions, but there is dumb information. So make sure you're getting your information from people who have studied this their whole lives, and they will tell you the risks as well as the rewards. But the rewards of the vaccine are much, much greater than the risks. So,
I love that, Terry. There are no dumb questions, but there is dumb information. Kimberly Wink. Kimberly Wink is listening in the chat room with your other chat room chatters, and Kimberly is saying, "Thank you for explaining this. I feel some misunderstand what gaslighting really is." So when I'm listening to you, as somebody who is not a professional in this area, but a gaslighter is somebody who will purposefully put out a falsehood and then try to sequester a small group of people or garner other people to believe the lie. And some will go to some extremes, whether it's a lie about a single person or another group of people or an entire society. And that's really dangerous stuff.
Yes, definitely. And that is why they, try to isolate people or get people into, cults or groups that they won't get questioned on anything, because they know as long as they can keep the confusion going and the instability and keep you in fear and off center, then they can control you and control the narrative. And the more fearful and confused and off-center people feel, the more they're going to turn to the person who is offering all the answers and appears to be the only one who knows the truth and is strong and stable.
Mm-hmm.
And that is only because they aren't being exposed to anything else, and they're being so weakened in a way by their uprooting of their sense of normality and stability.
So I have a question for you in practical terms. If one of your listeners has been the victim of gaslighting, and sometimes we'll say, well, the truth will be revealed in time about you. Everybody who knows you're a good person knows you're a good person. So, just it'll all wash out in the laundry. Is that always the best attitude to take, Terry? Or are there times when we need to say, wait a minute, what's being said about me by this family member or that person in business, what have you, is wrong? Or do we wait it out and let it all come out in the wash?
Well, I think you have to set boundaries when it starts to affect you negatively, or you feel like you're being treated, like you say, inappropriately in any way. You have a right and to your health too, a duty to set a boundary. And that boundary might just be, I'm not willing to discuss this anymore. It's not healthy for me, and I don't believe it's true. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily have to be, I'm never going to speak to the person again or whatever. But, one of the things they want to create is where we don't trust our gut, and we don't trust we aren't feeling like we're centered, and we know what's good for us and what we need and what we want and what's healthy. And so you don't want to deny that or minimize that, but you don't have to overreact to it either. Mm-hmm. But if it's there, then that usually means I need to set some kind of boundary. Mm-hmm. And that might be for some people, if it's, a minimum, not a major thing, an internal boundary where, I'm just going to not stay in the room from now on when that person starts discussing this or talking about this subject. And, know that you can leave and give yourself permission to do that.
Excellent. And what about, Todd and we have been vaccinated, and we will get our second vaccination, me in April and him in May. And, this idea that people like Todd and I being sheeples, right? Just being led around by our ignorant selves. We're just ignorant, whatever. And when Todd and I hear that kind of thing, we just chuckle. But for some people, that can be very traumatizing for a family member or an associate to say, oh, so you're one of those, you're just a sheeple, being led astray because, you're buying into whatever. How do you suggest that someone react to that, or do you react?
Well, I think it is an individual thing. Like I say, if you're really able to just brush it off and know that that's them and not you, and it's not worth, the battle, like choose your battles carefully type of thing. But if it starts to wear on you, then you need to know that's not healthy. And you should stand up for yourself and say, it's not okay to put me down or call me names of any kind in any way. And that's a put down. And if you continue that, I'm going to leave. Because calling people names in any way, shape, or form is not okay. We're not anybody's scapegoat, and we don't have a right to call them names either, even though we might think that, that's not, that's not true information. That's different than saying, well, I think what you believe is stupid. You're saying, I don't believe that's true information, and it's not okay for you to call me names because of what I believe. And I'm basing my beliefs off of what I believe is true information. So, it can be, an individual decision, but I think you have to be able to take care of yourself. And if you do it in a way that is, respectful of the other person, it doesn't have to cause a permanent rift. It might, be awkward, and maybe you won't talk to each other for a week or so. But if you're respectful, you can say, I respect you, but I don't believe that information is correct. And I don't think it's okay for you to call me names because of the information that I believe is true.
Mm-hmm. So it goes both ways. I was having this conversation with my hairdresser a couple of weeks ago, and she does not believe in getting vaccinations and that sort of a thing. And we just had a great conversation that ended with, well, I respect your decision, and I'm glad you respect mine, and I'll see you next month for the next, dip and clip. So.
Right. The only time that I think it's really, unfortunately, confusing and not okay is that somehow it's become a belief that if I don't believe, that means I don't have to wear a mask and I don't have to care about, the possibility of spreading this to other people, and, I can do however I want. And that is where, when gaslighting gets to these extremes, where, like I say, people, we have to talk about it, because now it's not just affecting the one person who has their particular belief, it's affecting the whole society.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about taking away anyone's individual rights. It's about protecting everyone individually and as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's why I feel like we have to be able to talk about this, even if it's uncomfortable and even if people disagree, because we have to find a way to find some kind of common ground here for the common good.
I agree.
Or we're going to be fighting possibly this pandemic for a long time, and it's not just going to affect people's health. Of course, it affects the economy, and all of that is feeding into the division. So, everything's connected.
Terry, is there a particular personality type that is a gaslighter?
Well, narcissism, especially malignant narcissism, that's one of their main tools that they use is gaslighting. And of course, sociopaths and psychopaths always use gaslighting because, like I say, it's all built around a lie to get control. And whether those lies are about, beating someone down and making them feel worthless enough that they can control them, or getting people to follow them to feed their narcissism. And they will throw in positive reinforcements to confuse people too. I mean, that's part of, they cut you down and, you're not worth anything, and they'll do that over time, but then they'll turn around and praise you. And that's a way to keep people off center, to keep them, tied to you. So it's very, very tricky and very manipulative. And once somebody is worn down, doesn't feel like they're very worthy, a little bit of praise feels huge to them.
Mm-hmm.
So it hooks them back in. It's like, I've heard it in the, from people, it's like when you're, starved long enough, then anyone throwing you crumbs from the table tastes like a feast,
Right. And so what you're describing is that sometimes the narcissist and the gaslighting or the gaslighting behavior can actually make people ill, the victims of it.
Oh, definitely. And people even get PTSD from it when it goes on over time. So, we know, like, say, everything's connected. So when you're being told, you're worthless, you're wrong, you don't know what you're talking about. I think I posted a meme that had a bunch of
yes,
phrases or sayings, that are pretty common, especially if you grew up with that. A lot of us grew up with, you're too sensitive, or you're such a crybaby, or, when you grow up with negative comments like that, you're already imprinted with that vulnerability to it, and that difficulty with believing that, you're okay just the way you are. So sometimes, narcissists can be very good at, and sociopaths at, zeroing in on what your vulnerabilities are too, and that's what they'll work on. So the person might hear the same sayings a lot that are their soft spots, you might say. And, so anybody is going to be weakened by that, as far as, it gets harder and harder to fight back over time. And so people just, end up giving in and, like, saying, well, it's just not worth fighting over. But if that is what you're saying to yourself a lot or often, could be a red flag, a warning sign. Mm-hmm. That's when you might want to ask yourself, okay, maybe there is something going on with me here. Mm-hmm. Like when people say, I'm sorry all the time. We try to teach you don't have to be sorry about everything. That's what people have been, has been imprinted on them over years. And it's hard to break, or every time they get compliments, they, can't handle it. Like, oh no, I was just,
Exactly. And so with social media, the potential for gaslighting is now exponentially increased.
Oh my gosh. It's unbelievable what the internet and social media. I mean, the thing I think about with Facebook too, which has made it a struggle for me to stay on, but I think it's too important for us to counterbalance maybe at this point, is the whole premise that social media started on was young men objectifying women and rating them, looks-wise and sex-wise. And there's a spiritual thought on, when the core or the root of where something comes from isn't healthy spirituality, or isn't a value that is spiritual, the fruit of it is going to be very difficult to ever not be rotten.
Mm-hmm. I did not know that fact, Terry.
Social media all the time.
I did not know that.
Much judging. There's so much, negativity and objectifying. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that happens with gaslighting is the gaslighters project everything that there is really about them or going on with them onto others. So, they're going to project that everyone else is cheating or lying, or, all these negative things, when if you look at their behavior, they're the ones who are actually doing it, but they're going to continually project, and that is a way to keep the person distracted from their own behavior and looking for scapegoats.
So as we wrap up here, I have one question, because sometimes we bear witness to gaslighting that is going on. So I'll use myself as an example. A couple of years, 3 years back, someone got a hold of me and said, "Hey, Dee, do you realize that so-and-so is all over Facebook calling you a narcissist?" And I said, "Oh, well, I'm not surprised about that. See, I've known you long enough, Terry, to know some of this inside scoop about stuff with regard to like psychology and things. I mean, you and I have been friends and you've helped me through so many things in my life. And I said, oh, well, thank you for making me aware.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, I thought I was kind of grateful to that person, for making me aware. And as my sister Barbara always says, just pray for that person, who's doing that. But when should we be the person who says, knock it off, you're just gaslighting, or letting somebody else know that that's going on? Or should we stay out of it? How do you feel about that?
Well, I guess I would if it was somebody who I was close enough to that I felt I could talk to about it, I would probably talk to them and ask them, I want to learn from you as well as I'm feeling bad about myself because I heard you were saying this. And I know we all have our shadow sides and we all have some narcissism. But could you tell me what in particular is really bothers you about me that we could, maybe we can work through it. But that would be if I was close enough to that person that I wanted to try to learn from them and them learn from me. If it's just an acquaintance who I think is just projecting their own whatever difficulties they're going through onto me, then I probably just would ignore it.
Okay.
I think I've kind of hope that the people who do really know me, wouldn't believe it. But if they do, then, if they really care about me, they're going to come to me and talk to me about it, or somehow it's going to come out in a conversation and we'll talk about it. But, there's always going to be people out there that, especially if you're in public a lot, that are going to get triggered by you, or you might push their buttons, or like I say, maybe sometimes I am being, wrapped up in myself. And that's okay. We're human beings. We all do that sometimes. But if that person isn't to a point where they can learn to recognize that that's something we're all doing, and if they're really being bothered by it, it might be because they're doing it too sometimes.
Right.
Then that's something they'll have to learn, as they go.
Well, and I love what you said earlier.
If it's affecting your reputation, though, and you feel like it's really having a negative effect on other people you care about, then I might put it out there. I might say, I think there might be somebody or maybe more than one that feel this way about me. Let's talk about it. What is it that, I could do to help us in this conversation? I always try to talk from the I, because they teach us in therapy that talking from the I is not about being a narcissist or wanting to talk about yourself if you're doing it in a way where this is what happened to me, or this is what I'm going through, and this is what I learned. So I'm trying to relate it to you in the best way I know how from my own experience. It's not that it's all about me, but I don't want to say you, because I don't know what your experience is. I only know how I can relate to it from my experience, and hope that makes you feel comfortable enough to be able to relate your experience to me. But sometimes, that's a learning curve. So for people who are listening to someone else, so.
And I love how you started your
in a roundabout way.
Yeah, and I love how you started your podcast this morning with watch behavior, don't listen to words.
Yes, that is probably the key thing, is look at behaviors. Do the real behaviors and actions match all the stuff this person is saying? Or are they projecting, is that their behavior that they're accusing everyone else of doing?
God, what a great show this morning, Terry. Thank you.
Oh, good. You're so welcome. I hope that was helpful, and I hope everybody is getting some spring there in the colder states.
We are. It's finally starting to warm up a little bit this morning, and I know that everybody that's listening and everybody in the chat room really, really appreciate your insight this morning, Terry.
Oh, I'm so glad. And I hope we can all be out in nature and at least be outside, even if we can't have close gatherings yet.
Exactly. Have a beautiful day there in Arkansas, my friend.
Thank you. Love you all. God bless you all.
Have a great day, everybody.
Bye-bye.